Hello! Okay, so today we're doing something a little bit different. We're going to talk about something I'm extremely passionate about, and that is natural birth control. And when I say natural birth control, what I'm really saying is no hormones, no artificial anything. I know this is a little bit different outside of my normal of talking about energy work and holistic healing, but I really feel passionate about this topic. So no, it's not energy work related. However, it is holistic based, and this is what I do for natural birth control. It is probably the method that I will use after I have a baby, and when I'm all done with kids and I'm done, then obviously we'll just go for the vasectomy. I am very passionate about this topic because I feel like this should be in the sex ed course in school. Like everything I'm putting in this video, it should be in our maturation courses when we're tiny, because this is vital information that if I had known, maybe I could have saved myself from a lot of pain. I'm not saying that birth control is totally disruptive to fertility. All I know is that for me it was. For some women it doesn't, and that's awesome and I applaud you, but for me it screwed me up and it hurt me. Okay, so there are three main kinds of natural birth control: condoms, the copper IUD, and natural family planning. Okay, we're gonna go into what natural family planning means and all the science behind it. So number one, condoms. Obviously, condoms are condoms. They work. You stick them on. They do their job. Assuming they don't break, everything goes according to plan. Second one, Paragard. It's an IUD, so it sits inside of the uterus. It looks like this picture right here. It just goes in there. Copper kills sperm. It just fries them. Like they can't exist. It's a toxic environment for them. I have personally had the copper IUD. I used it for 2 years after I had my daughter, and it was okay. I didn't hate it. If it's the only option that works for you, I say go for it. However, I did notice my periods were heavier. I did notice some discomfort. My cramps were definitely a lot stronger, especially during ovulation. Copper IUD, it wasn't terrible. It really isn't. If that's the only birth control that works for you, it's a great option. But those are the two like birth controls, is the condom and the copper IUD. I want to talk about natural family planning. Okay, this is a different kind of birth control. It basically consists of knowing and being very intuitive with your cycle, being very intuitive with your schedule, okay? And just knowing when you ovulate, knowing what that looks like, knowing the cervical mucus, and we're gonna go into all of that. Believe it or not, there are only 6 days, well, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 days max that you are fertile. Despite what you have been told in high school, that if you have intercourse once, you will immediately get pregnant. It's such a lie. It's total BS. There are only 6 days in your whole cycle that you are actually able to get pregnant. What they told you in high school was a scare tactic so that you wouldn't get pregnant. By using natural family planning, you're able to figure out where those 6 days are and abstain from sex or use something else during those 6 days. Once you get past those 6 days or before those 6 days, you're good to go. You're good to have sex for as long as you want to, as many times as you want to. It's just within that 6-day window that you are actually fertile. So what does natural family planning consist? It can get a little complex, but I feel like once you get it down, it's not as overwhelming as it is when you first start. And once you get it down, it's very easy. If you have ever intentionally tried for a baby, my best guess is you already know what natural family planning is. You just don't know that that can be used as a birth control. Natural family planning consists of 3 different things: your basal body temperature, your LH surge, and your cervical mucus. 1, you track your BBT, or basal body temperature. So how does BBT work when it comes to tracking your fertility? So every month, when you start your period, your temperature starts at a baseline, okay? And I'm going to insert this picture right here. This is my personal fertility charts, and it's gonna show you what I'm talking about. So every month, your temperature is gonna start at a baseline. And from the day of your period until you ovulate, your temperatures are going to fluctuate a little bit, but they're going to remain pretty consistent. Once you ovulate, you're going to notice that you're going to get a spike in temperature, because once you do ovulate, your body does rise in temperature. So it is after you ovulate that your body rises in temperature. By knowing when your body rises in temperature, you know when you have ovulated. So if you are tracking your basal body temperature every single day, you should know when you have ovulated. And if you think about this logically, if you know when you've ovulated and you no longer have an egg in your system, how could you possibly be fertile after you've ovulated? You can't. There is a 0% chance of getting pregnant once you have ovulated, unless you ovulate twice and you're a crazy person. I do know people who do that, but it should be detected on the thermometer, and if you use LH strips, which we'll go into. It's very rare. Don't worry, you're probably not one of the very few that it happens to, and if you are, wow, congrats. Sorry. It has to be a specific basal body temperature thermometer. So you can't use any thermometer. It doesn't work. You have to specifically get a basal body. I really love Easy at Home digital thermometer because it is super easy. It syncs to my phone. It's Bluetooth connected. I can stick it under my tongue, take my temperature, easy, one and done. I can stick this on my nightstand and go back to sleep. I never have to pull out my phone. Other BBT thermometers that may be a little bit cheaper, you do have to stick it under your tongue, but you do have to pull it out of your mouth. It can beep. It's pretty loud. The one that I have is loud. And then you have to read it. You have to pull your phone out. You have to log it in your phone. It can be a little bit more tedious. It does take you away from like being groggy and asleep. Whereas this one, I can just pop it in my mouth. It reads it. I look down. I'm like, okay, it's good. I stick it on my nightstand, and the next morning, turn it on, and it syncs to my phone. Now, a lot of people use Easy at Home to get pregnant. You can use this for natural family planning. Other BBT systems are Natural Cycles, Pre-Mom, Temp Drop, which is this one, and I'll talk about it, OvuSense, Ava, and Daisy, okay? So Natural Cycles is just like this. You just use a thermometer. It doesn't have a Bluetooth connection as far as I know, and there is a monthly subscription with all the other ones that, as far as I know. So these are the only two that I've noticed that don't have a monthly subscription, and I am not into that, so I don't use those. What I really love about Temp Drop is that instead of a thermometer that you stick under your tongue, because that still is something you have to do and you have to wake up and do it, I love Temp Drop. And the reasoning is because I can just, there's a sensor on the back here, and I can just stick this on my arm. You want it like right under your armpit. I'm not going to do that, but you just stick it right under your arm. I can hit this button, this green button right here. Maybe if you can see it, and I can just go to sleep, and I wake up in the morning and I just hit this button and it tracks it into my calendar thing on my phone, my little app, and I have all of my BBT tracked just like this one, but I don't have to wake up at all. This is amazing. If you're breastfeeding, you need one of these, okay? This will not work if you're breastfeeding, but anything that is wearable will work when you are breastfeeding. If you're one of those people who do swing shifts or night shifts or anything like that, you're gonna need something that stays on you consistently all night long instead of one that you wake up for, because you need at least, I think it's 3 or 4 hours of consecutive sleep in order to get a under the tongue thermometer accurate reading. So the second part of natural family planning is the cervical mucus. Your cycle has different periods in which your cervical mucus will show up. Essentially what this means is the texture and the consistency of the discharge down there is going to tell you where you're at in your cycle. So what are the different kinds of cervical mucus? Watery, sticky, egg white, and bleeding, obviously. I do consider blood a cervical mucus. Some people don't want to say that. Some people are against that. That's okay if you're not, but I just consider it part of the flow down there, and so I technically consider it. So what are the different phases for your cervical mucus? From cycle day 1 to cycle day 4, 5, 6, or 7, depending on where your period starts and ends, that is your menstruation. That is when you bleed. If you move over, I'm gonna put a picture right here as well. If you move to the follicular phase, you're gonna notice that your cervical mucus is going to become stretchy and really like an egg white texture. It's going to become really long and really elastic, okay? So if you just take your fingers and you put it up there, don't go up there too far, but if you take them out and you'll be able to stretch, it should be able to stretch somewhat. You can especially tell after intercourse. So egg white texture equals you are fertile. Abstain from sex if you don't want to participate in pregnancy. The third phase is a very sticky texture. For me, it's very sticky. It's kind of a coarse texture. I like to think of it as like paper mache. Sometimes it can have clumps in it and it can feel like paper mache. It's really sticky. And you can notice this right before your period. Sometimes that stickiness turns into a watery texture. Any type of paper mache stickiness or any type of watery texture, that is a sign that you have ovulated. There's no longer an egg in your system and your body is prepping for menstruation, okay? And then of course the cycle starts all over again and you go back into menstruation. And last but not least, we have LH strips or LH testing, and that is part of natural family planning. Should you want to do it, it's totally optional. I personally choose to do it because I'm trying for a baby, right? Like you can use it for both, which is awesome. So this is an ovulation test or an LH test. And what it is doing is trying to find your LH peak, okay? So essentially, right before you ovulate, your body is going to send out a hormone, a luteinizing hormone, and that hormone is going to peak right before you ovulate, okay? So if you're using these LH strips, you should be able to know. I'm going to insert a picture. This is what my LH strips look like. And if you can see, it starts off pretty light. That means I'm kind of starting to, I've just gotten past my period. I'm in the follicular phase. And you can see as they get darker and darker until I hit my peak. It's called an LH peak. It's when I hit my surge. That means, hey, you have about 24 to 48 hours before I release an egg. And if you are trying for a baby, that is your go time. Like that is the best time to have sex. If you are trying to abstain from pregnancy, don't participate in intercourse. Okay. So then is after this egg drops, after you have ovulated, your peak is immediately going to crash. And you can see it in this line progression that I have over here. So it starts off in the follicular phase and then you ovulate in between the peak and where it crashes. And usually after you peak, you have about 24 to 48 hours of that egg living inside of you. And then you use BBT to confirm that you have ovulated, that the egg is out of your system, and that you're ready to go. So you can see how when you add all of this together, you add the cervical mucus, you add the BBT charting, and you add the LH strips, you get a very clear idea of what your cycle is doing and whether or not you're fertile. So you can see how if I'm only fertile for 6 days, I wouldn't want to take contraceptives or hormonal birth control throughout the whole month. If I'm only fertile for 6 days, why would I pump hormones in my body every single day for 28 days? So using natural family planning is essentially finding your 6-day window. It's being able to comprehend when you are fertile and using other methods to prevent pregnancy. Now I know what you're thinking. What do I do if I'm in my fertile window and we're in the 6 days, or I've had my LH peak and I've not yet confirmed that I've ovulated on my BBT? Like, what do I do if I'm fertile? What do I do? How does natural family planning work if I am fertile? There are 3 different options here, okay? So number 1 is abstinence. okay? Like some people, full blown, if they're natural family planning, they just don't have sex for 6 days. I am personally not one of those people. I love it too much. Number 2, you can use a spermicide, which I will be using. Spermicide is a gel that you put up inside of you 15 to 20 minutes before you have intercourse. And basically it activates, and once a man comes inside of you, it immediately kills the sperm on contact. It is like copper IUD in the sense that it secretes a chemical that immediately kills and paralyzes all the sperm. You can't get pregnant because it kills all of it. Now there are studies that have come out in the past that say that spermicide is not super effective. It's like 89% effective. However, there is a new spermicide that just came out like a couple of weeks ago. It is called Phexxi, Phexxi. I will show a picture of it here, as well as the website. You can read all about it. The FDA just approved it, if you care about that. And it's pretty freaking effective, okay? This is like a great birth control option if you are one of those girls who are still in the mood, okay? So abstinence, spermicide, and the last one is condoms. I mean, we have them, we might as well use them, right? So we're gonna go into the pros and the cons of natural family planning. Big pro is it gets you really in tune with your cycle. You get in touch with your body and you know your body. And that is a huge pro for me. I really like education and I really like to be informed, and I'm a know-it-all control freak. So for me, that's a huge pro. Another pro, there's no synthetic hormones, no birth control that is disruptive towards the cycle. You don't have to risk fertility. That was a big one for me. It was worth all the work that I was putting into knowing that I was not disrupting my cycle. I am one of those people that when I took birth control, it totally messed me up. I got suicidal. I got crazy and scary. So I know for sure that I would much rather do this than deal with those synthetic hormones. Number 3, it is actually approved for religious purposes. Some religions, they don't believe in birth control. Some religions actually they think that it's kind of like abortion. I personally don't. It is actually approved by a lot of pastors and a lot of religious folk because it's not disrupting the body, and it's not, I guess spermicide is one of the exceptions, but it's not killing off life, if that makes sense, or the potential for life. So in some people's eyes, it can be a more humane option for preserving life. The 4th pro is that you can actually use this to get pregnant. So you can just reverse this, and since you know when you ovulate and you know when you're fertile, you can have intercourse along those days and go ahead and baby dance, and you will know when you're actually fertile. And instead of using it to abstain from pregnancy, you can actually create pregnancy a lot easier. There's actually studies out there that show that you have like a 3 times more likely chance to get pregnant by using natural family planning method. So, however, there are some cons. Number 1, it does take some work. It's not just for the faint of heart. If you're not in it, then you can get pregnant. It does take a little bit of work. However, I will say it's not as much work as you think it is. It's a little bit overwhelming when you first start, but once you get the hang of it, it just becomes so natural. It becomes so easy. It's like second nature. It's like driving a car. That's the best way I can put it. You get in the car, you're freaked out, you're like, oh no, I don't know what I'm doing. So just use condoms the first 3 months of your cycle as you get to know your cycle, and then once you feel confident enough, it really is like driving a car. You just go on autopilot, and now I don't even think about it. I'm like, oh yeah, I have like, my discharge says that I'm in the follicular phase, cool. Like, it's so natural, so second nature to me now. So number 1, it is a little bit of work, but in the long run, it's really easy, and it's second nature to me at this point. Number 2, these little tests can cost some money, as well as the BBT stuff. It does cost some money. It can be expensive. To refill these ovulation tests, it can add up. However, if your prescription for birth control is like $24 a month, it's probably cheaper than that because I use the Easy at Home as well as these off-branded David ovulation strips, and you can just go on Amazon and find any ovulation strip. And they're about, the one that I just purchased was like $18 for an 80 count box, which is like less than 80 cents per test. It's like way cheap anyway. So they can be expensive, but comparing it comparatively to birth control and IUDs and stuff where you have to, you know, pay for those treatments, it's kind of 50-50 in my head, but it can get expensive. The third con that I can think of is it can be stressful if you are one of those people that get overwhelmed and anxious easily. It just can be stressful in the first couple of months learning. For me, it was pretty stressful. That's why I actually turned to BBT charting with my temp drop instead of using my thermometer anymore. But there are different ways to do it, and in the long run, it is totally worth it, and I highly recommend it. So even though it can be stressful, I recommend just push through that and just do it, because your body will thank you. So thank you for watching this video. If you found this informational, please consider hitting the like button at the bottom and maybe even subscribe. I would love to see your comments down below. I try to read every single one and reply if possible. And I hope to see you next time.